Hello, and welcome to a video game. Another thing that I had never gotten around to playing, and now I have a good reason to. But even more important than that, I need to mention that the wiggle emote has been let out of prison. If you have the ability to wiggle, you are now free to wiggle at your leisure. And it's even cooler now. Hey, Newt. It's such a cool emote. I love this thing. It had to go to the vet for a couple of days. Anyway, hey, I'm back and I'm absolutely, completely restored and serene after what happened with our sim the other day. It's not bothering me whatsoever. I'm absolutely fine, and I'm not bothered. I'm completely unbothered by this. So yeah, I don't know a lot about this except that it was made by the people who made Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, which I played on stream some time back and had an interesting time with. It was very memorable, but I had so many qualms about it. I really enjoyed some things. I particularly enjoyed the character of Kate and how you really got a feel for her emotional journey and why she did what she did at the end, and the extremely apparent racism she was facing that was completely left as subtext. That was really good. I wonder how much racism is in Dearest. No, sorry. I'm sorry. I can't believe how much I missed out on after going to bed during the Sims stream. It was kind of insane. I don't like you could go to bed after an hour of what happened. I mean, a lady caught fire, and yet that wasn't even the most dramatic thing that happened. Oh, I can have director's commentary. Well, we'll just leave that off just for now. Also, I was getting confused and...
Dear Esther.
Oh, sorry.
The gulls do not land here anymore. I've noticed that this year they seem to shun the place. Maybe it's the depletion of the fishing stock driving them away. Perhaps it's me. When he first landed here, Donnelly wrote that the herds were sickly and their shepherds the lowest of the miserable classes that populate these Hebridean islands. 300 years later, even they have departed.
It's so monochrome, except for the blinking red light. I like it. I also enjoy how nostalgically Source Engine it is. You can absolutely believe that a gunship would soar over that hill and start firing lasers at you. I miss Half-Life 2. Yeah, I kept getting confused. I kept thinking to myself, you know what? Next time we are starting on a new thing, after I've finished whatever series I'm on, I want to grab that one preliminary, like one of the first ones to ever do it, walking sim. I want to get in with that one that's been sitting in my Steam library for ages. And I thought it was... What Remains of Edith Finch for some reason, and I couldn't separate them in my brain, so the whole time I was like, where's What Remains of Edith Finch in my Steam library? And it wasn't there. It was actually this one. So I needed to see the toilet. I remember playing it and not understanding it at all. Well, I like how it made sure we could view the disgusting toilet as soon as we walked in. Hello, Soul Waspman. This is fairly creepy, actually, but there's also a kind of oh god, don't make that joke. There's a kind of solitude in knowing that there's no weapons, therefore there can't be any monsters that will hurt me. I certainly didn't understand the concept of a walking simulator and kept expecting there to be more. How times have changed. Yeah, that's really what this game represents, isn't it? This was kind of the first foray into just exploring as a game in itself, as far as I know. And then they went on to make, obviously, the other one that we played, and it kind of changed the landscape, and suddenly there were even more of them. As opposed to, say, you know, we've had Myst and stuff like that for a very long time, but that's not a walking simulator because you have to figure out puzzles that you find, and this is more like just experiencing a narrative inside a 3D space, which was very new at the time. I just realized this is the lighthouse and the stairs are broken, so we can't go up there. Does anyone know? Myst, yay! I don't think Scenes is here, but does anybody recognize this beautiful molecule? Which one is this? 2 carbons, a bunch of hydrogens, and an oxygen hydrogen. Anyone know what that is? CHOH6? It's been so many years since chemistry that all I can do is recognize the elements, and that's about it. Oh, he's automatically turning his torch off. Well, that's nice and conservative of you. Luminous paint. So, okay. I wonder why somebody drew a beautiful molecule in luminous paint. Beryllium dioxide. Is that true, or are you just saying words? It's so archaic in visuals, and I mean that in a really good way. It's nostalgic and simple, and it reminds me of simpler times. I was also playing Left 4 Dead again earlier today, since I now have it installed. I was like, yeah, why not just grab a few achievements that I never got back in the day. I'm already appreciating this so much more than I did as a babby the first time around. Well, don't tell me you were too much of a babby, or I'll feel old. Is there anything down here? Was I supposed to go up? I have to assume there is something. Well, I mean, why can't it just be a nice stroll by the sea? I'm really enjoying the environment. I love how muted it is. The sky is very colourful. Oh. And all you can hear is the waves. Oh, there's a stairway up that way. Okay.
At night, you can see the lights sometimes from a passing tanker or trawler. From up on the cliffs, they are mundane. But down here, they fugue into ambiguity. For instance, I cannot readily tell if they belong above or below the waves. The distinction now seems banal. Why not everything and all at once? There's nothing better to do here than indulge in contradictions whilst waiting for the fabric of life to unravel.
That has such a everybody's gone to the rapture feel to it. It's exactly the same vibe, which is quite impressive, I think. It's got an identity to it. I guess I'll keep going. I want to see what's up the stairs, but what's over here? I still have not got over how good the music in Everybody's Gone to the Rapture was. I had some misgivings about some aspects of it, but there were some things that really impressed me, and the music was absolutely the main event. It was fantastic. So that is the golden ratio. Is the golden ratio a Fibonacci spiral, or is that a different thing? So we now have some chemistry and some maths as our only clues.
Dear Esther, I found myself to be as featureless as this ocean, as shallow and unoccupied as this bay, a listless wreck without identification. My rocks are these bones, and a careful fence to keep the precipice at bay. Shot through me caves, my forehead a mount. This aerial will transmit into me so. All overexposed, the nervous system, where Donnelly's boots and yours and mine still trample. I will carry a torch for you. I will leave it at the foot of my headstone. You will need it for the tunnels that carry me under.
I'm back. Did we find dear Esther yet? No. Also, I have to apologize because my reactive must be in front of the dialogue box. So I'm sorry about that, but there's no space where to put it. Are we Esther? I don't think so, because I think the summary on Steam says that Esther is your dead wife, I think, and this is from the point of view of her surviving husband. Also, hey scenes, hello. I think every time I say hello, I think of that woman saying it, you know, in the car in that one Vine. How long ago was that? I cannot stop thinking about it. Anyway, there was some rocks up here, and there is a car door, and there's also a tire, and then another car door. So we're pointing towards a destroyed car here somewhere. It is really funny to come back to a game that really did influence the landscape of its medium, but in a way where everything controversial about it is now completely forgotten. We all know and sometimes even like walking simulators now. No! That was like the edge of my brain that I was trying not to acknowledge, Radrosh. Yeah, please, everyone tell Radrosh to shut up. That was like teasing the edge of my thoughts, and I was trying to ignore it. Steam says I played this December 23rd, 2012. A raucous Christmas for all. Death Stranding playthrough went, never, I'm not playing Death Stranding, I'll get too angry. Oh, that was 13 years ago. Oh, Christ. That was the height of, like... Well, 2012 was the year that Guild Wars 2 came out, so that was a big thing for me. It was also the height of, like, the Onceler stuff, which was, you know, kind of inescapable. Do you guys want me to get incredibly angry at Death Stranding? I've been playing a little bit of Wuthering Waves, which is like if Death Stranding was extremely anime, and instead of you having to keep your balance all the time, you could just like leap up a fucking building. So that'll have to suffice. 2012 is when I finished high school. God, am I really like 5 years older than you? Everyone's so young, stop it. Why would you get mad? Have you seen the names of the characters? I think everybody in chat, you're excused to tab out from the stream. Don't close it, just go to another tab and Google names of characters in Death Stranding and then tell me some of them.
I decided it would never be missed as I slipped it under my coat and avoided the librarian's gaze on the way out. If the subject matter is obscure, the writer's literary style is even more so. It is not the text of a stable or trustworthy reporter. Perhaps it is fitting that my only companion in these last days should be a stolen book written by a dying man.
Okay, so there were 3 of us, me and Esther and Donnelly is also dead and he wrote a book. And at some point a car was involved. And yeah, Die Hardman. I'm not playing a game. I'll just yell. Also, it says some really uncomfortable things about women. And I'll yell about that. And no one will really enjoy it, so... I'm not gonna play it, no!
When someone had died or was dying, or was so ill they gave up what little hope they could sacrifice, they cut parallel lines into the cliff, exposing the white chalk beneath. You could see them from the mainland or the fishing boats, and know to send aid or impose a cordon of protection, and wait a generation until whatever pestilence stalked the cliff paths died along with its hosts. My lines are just for this, to keep any would-be rescuers at bay. The infection is not simply of the flesh.
Oh, I can zoom in with clicking, so that's the only thing I can do apart from move. Yes, these are the white lines he's talking about, I think, but that was rather confusing. I understand the idea of chiseling white lines into the chalk of the cliffs, to keep away people in the case of there being some kind of disease, like as a warning, people are dying and they can't be saved. That's very morbid but sensical. Is sensical a word? I know nearly nothing about Death Stranding, but I'm getting really close to start playing it. I think you should. I think you'd like it. I couldn't enjoy it. I would just be so mad. Ooh. So there's like a line drawn between the original peoples that inhabited this sort of island who used to do that and the situation that he's in now. Multiple people told me that I'd like it, and I'm scared. Will I be getting incurable blowbo from it?
There was no love in the relationship. Donnelly tells me that they had one Bible that was passed around in strict rotation. It was stolen by a visiting monk in 1776, 2 years before the island was abandoned altogether. In the interim, I wonder, did they assign chapter and verse to the stones and grasses, marking the geography with a superimposed significance that they could actually walk the Bible and inhabit its contradictions?
That's a beautiful sentiment, and it was completely undercut by me having to just struggle not to laugh at the words new blobman. What if I get an incurable blowbo? Honestly, I think there's a mad scientist. You probably like him. I think there isn't that the game where there's a character that's literally just was it Del Toro? Did they put Del Toro in that game? He could kind of get it in Minecraft. Yeah, Guillermo del Blorbo, that's his name. Yeah, I think we will come to the conclusion, seeing as you need to play this. You could stream it even. I'd come and watch you play it. I'm not playing it myself. I didn't even connect that it would be so much up your alley, but the only thing I remember, I'm going to pause so I don't progress the game. The only thing I remember about Death Stranding is there was a bit where you meet various scientists and they tell you to do whatever, and you absorb vague lore about what the hell's happened and is continuing to happen to a partially destroyed United States. And there are themes, and the themes are fine, they work, and the gameplay is completely of itself, and it's interesting, and it's fresh, and I like that. What I don't like is that you meet, at one point, a woman scientist who is haunted by the ghost of her own baby, which is still attached to her via an umbilical cord, that's also a ghost. That's why I can't play it. I would be so mad.
Dear Esther, I met Paul. I made my own little pilgrimage. My Damascus, a small semi-detached on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. We drank coffee in his kitchen and tried to connect to one another. Although he knew I hadn't come in search of an apology, reason or retribution, he still spiraled in panic, thrown high and lucid by his own dented bonnet. Responsibility had made him old. Like us, he'd already passed beyond any conceivable boundary of life.
Well, the narration is really quite esoteric, perhaps is the right word. There's a lighthouse right there, and yet there's a bunch of smashed up boats here. They really are very pretty, yeah. I want to take a picture of, a screenshot rather, of this valley with the, I don't know, a communications tower of some sort with a red light, which might indicate not working, perhaps. That's fun. Great visuals. The delivery is really good, even if I have no idea what he's on about. I don't really either. This is something similar to it's similar to Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, in that we're hearing snippets of things which I don't want things spoon-fed to me, but they've mentioned multiple characters that we have no frame of reference for. I'm fine with things not being spoon-fed as long as it sounds like something a person would actually say. But these kind of games sometimes sound like they're being obtuse for the sake of it, you know, to try and sound intellectual. And a lot of that was actually quite good, though. I'm assuming you managed to pull some significance from her situation that I didn't, apparently. No, it's just because that's not how you write a woman character.
I threw my arms wide and the cliff opened out before me, making this rough home. I transferred my belongings from the bothy on the mount and tried to live here instead. It was cold at night, and the sea lapped at the entrance at high tide. To climb the peak, I must first venture even deeper into the veins of the island, where the signals are blocked altogether. Only then will I understand them, when I stand on the summit and they flow into me, uncorrupted.
This is even more like Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, having signals flow into you and embracing them. Oh, a paint can. The light on the tower is an aviation thing. Oh, okay. So I imagine that... Okay, I don't know who did these drawings, but I'm presuming the person who used the paint on the walls is the narrator. And he was some sort of scientist, judging by the... I keep saying beautiful molecule instead of just molecule. There's also a nerve cell. I don't recognize those. And that, I have no clue. You can't stop thinking about me. Yes, Soul Wasman, I know what a nerve is, but I don't know what these are. They look like... Oh, unless you meant these, in which case I'm sorry. Are these nerve cells? I only recognize that kind. Oh, here's Bosnium or whatever again. Polyp. Yeah, that sounds familiar. Whatever this is. Is anyone gonna help me with this? Oh, this is kind of... It's a compound that is also kind of also displayed as a nerve cell. This... Okay. Lead. Virus. We're all just saying words. There's something about this that feels really familiar. Something about the kind of notation in the bottom of it. I swear to God, I had some sort of biology lesson where I drew something like this. No, not squimmed. It's not a map. No, it feels like some sort of plantoid cell. I don't know. It's giving me memories of some sort. Is there a way to go through here or anything? Do I go down? Okay, I think it's down. Suig? What? Oh. Falls in the water, breaks leg. Okay, so... Hang on a second. I'm just going to tab out. I'm sorry if you can't hear it, but I'm going to look at the store page for this game and just read the description really quick. Okay, just because this might give us some context we might actually need. A deserted island, a lost man, memories of a fatal crash, a book written by a dying explorer. Dear Esther immerses you in a stunningly realized world, a remote and desolate island somewhere in the Outer Hebrides. As you step forward, a voice begins to read fragments of a letter, and so begins a journey through one of the most original first-person games of recent years. Okay, so it didn't say, you are Esther's husband and she's dead. Did I pick that up, or am I just imagining that maybe she's not dead. Maybe the narrator has nerve damage, and this was actually about him. Oh, we came from that way. Is this some kind of impenetrable purgatory? Is this just the most normal day in the Hebrides? Have you ever been to the Hebrides? Just casually asking. It's like they've picked it obviously because it's an island that used to have people on it and now doesn't. Maybe he just really likes jellyfish. Relatable. I love the the heath or whatever this is. It looks the polygonal elements are very well disguised by all the undergrowth. So the dramatic crash that was mentioned, I imagine may have been the car, because there was a really long route along the beach.
He still maintains he wasn't drunk, but tired. I can't make the judgment or the distinction anymore. I was drunk when I landed here, and tired too. I walked up the cliff path in near darkness and camped in the bay where the trawler lies beached. It was only at dawn that I saw the bothy and decided to make my temporary lodgings there. I was expecting just the aerial and a transmitter stashed in a weatherproof box somewhere on the mount. It had an air of uneasy permanence to it. Like all the other buildings here, erosion seems to have evaded it completely.
Okay, so the crash may have been the three of them in the car. We found bits of a car, and was it Donald or Donnelly was driving, and he was drunk, and he crashed, and Esther is dead, and we're dealing with survivor's guilt, perhaps. This is an interesting rock structure. I assume this is like based on or mapped from something real. Why can't I move? 70 islands, and about 12 are inhabited in any way. Wow, that's a lot of uninhabited islands. I wonder if they're just not very appealing. Why did you laugh when at the word heath? Is that not what it is? Oh, I haven't. They're so hard to get to. Well, I mean, it's a nightmarishly hard place to live. They've obviously chosen it for this scenario. 58 shit islands. They've chosen it for this scenario because it frames the narrative into the location of a place nobody wants to be. Wish I could jump. Hop. Oh wow, a loading screen.
Dear Esther, I have now driven the stretch of the M5 between Exeter and Bristol over 21 times.
Go into hole.
But although I have all the reports and all the witnesses, and have cross-referenced them within a millimetre using my Ordnance Survey maps, I simply cannot find the location. You'd think there would be marks to serve as some evidence. It's somewhere between the turn-off for Sanford and the welcome brake services. But although I can always see it in my rear-view mirror, I have as yet been unable to pull ashore.
Okay, so the pieces of the car that we found in the like little crags of the island aren't literally what happened. They are referencing things from his mind. The car crash happened on the M5 and he can't get over it, and he is driving back and forth across that part of the M5 trying to find exactly where it happened and thinking about why isn't there some sort of permanent mark left physically when there's been such a permanent mark left on their lives. The weird thing is, I keep thinking, shall I go the other way? That this was what happened with Everybody's Gone to the Rapture as well. Should I have gone down there instead? Does it not matter? I imagine they've put that in so that you aren't following a single track the whole way through. But it just creates this strange feeling of insecurity. Buying literally analysis mode. I don't know. He was talking about threading together fiction and reality before, when he mentioned the people who used to live here having one copy of a Bible and whether they mapped the island into its words.
The boy has kept me lucid. I sat when I was at the very edge of despair, when I thought I would never unlock the secret of the island. I sat at the edge and I watched the idiot boy blink through the night. He's mute and he's retarded, and he has no thought in his metal head but to blink each way.
Sorry, beep that out.
Until the morning comes and renders him blind as well as deaf mute. In many ways, we have much in common.
We're beeping that, and we're also cancelling The guy from Dear Esther. What does this say? And neither did he eat nor drink. Give me a second. And Saul arose from the earth, and when his eyes were opened, he saw no man, but they led him by the hand and brought him into Damascus. And he was 3 days without sight, and neither did eat or drink. That is Acts 9:9 of the Bible. I figured it was because A, it sounds like it, and B, he already mentioned the Bible before. And he also mentioned Damascus before, but I don't know enough about the Bible to get that reference. What is Damascus? I've forgotten what he said about it already. Honestly, for the UK, this is just a really pleasant afternoon hike. I would love to go walking around an island like this. I have Sauron there. We just live with it. I like how they put you down a path that doesn't go anywhere, and then you have to walk slowly really back. The capital of Syria. I mean, okay, literally it is, but in the Bible it must have some sort of moral significance, which is why he's talking about it. He must be a religious guy. Would these count as a moor? I've never known much about moors, and I've never been to one, but I know they have them in Scotland because of Wuthering Heights. That was in Scotland, right? I should actually read Wuthering Heights, to be honest. Oh wait, it's like, I just realized I spent the whole time playing Wuthering Waves, thinking to myself, did they make that word up? Did they just invent that for some reason? What does that mean? I completely forgot that Wuthering Heights already existed. They're big lumps of uncultivated flatland. Wuthering Waves does take place in Scotland. Wow, a lot's happened up there since I last visited. Yeah, he mentioned this crashed dinghy. It better not. It's really funny that we have independently mentioned Death Stranding, because the one thing I cannot get over is how incredibly obviously Wuthering Waves takes inspiration from Death Stranding. Like, they've said that. It's really obvious. And yet at the same time, it can't stop being anime. And it's just come up independently now. Oh, do I get to walk through the shipping container? It's just like going through an underpass in like Norwich. Did they? So there is a lighthouse, but there's a hell of a lot of crashed ships. Maybe this isn't literal. Maybe you're just meant to take this as a metaphor. Oh, that's the boy he was talking about, the idiot boy, the flashing one. That's very Great Gatsby of him. In fact, that's almost too Great Gatsby.
At the bottom of the boat. How else could new hermits have arrived?
Maybe it's a shit lighthouse. I think that... Oh! Goatse? I think the island is a metaphor for his mental condition, and I don't think it's good. And I also think he knows about Goatse. What do you mean you can't? We were all thinking it. Why was he drawing pictures of nerves? What if you found a chalk drawing of a troll face on these cliffs? I have absolutely no doubt that somewhere or other in a really remote place in the UK, someone's done that.
I had kidney stones and you visited me in the hospital. After the operation, when I was still half submerged in anesthetic, your outline and your speech both blurred. Now my stones have grown into an island and made their escape, and you have been rendered opaque by the car of a drunk.
That was kind of insultingly obvious. Why are you giving us pieces to put together and then saying, by the way, you were turned into a ghost by a car? Mr. Twitch was trying to protect you. By the way, we're talking about metaphors, and this island is like my kidney stones. No, shut up. I was doing fine. Big hole.
Is this what Paul saw through his windscreen? Not Lot's wife looking over her shoulder, but a scar in the hillside, falling away to black forever.
That's... I think you can hear screaming or something. Whee!
Come back.
Oh. I got an achievement. I got an achievement. Did it put me on the other side? Wow, I wonder what the giant, massive, screaming hole represents. You fall down and reach old aperture. God, should I just replay Portal 2? I don't think I can, because I don't think I could be normal about, you know, the stuff. There's a house.
I've begun my ascent on the windless slope of the western side. The setting sun was an inflamed eye squeezing shut against the light shone in by the doctors. My neck is aching through constantly craning my head up to track the light of the aerial. I must look downwards, follow the path under the island to a new beginning.
This is so... Everybody's gone to the rapture. It's so Bible references. And peaceful music and visuals that are really good. What do you mean, first? Yeah, there's something... They ripped off Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. No, scenes I'm not telling you.
Constructed originally in the early 1700s.
Is this the bothy?
Shepherding had formalized into a career. The first habitual shepherd was a man called Jakobsen, from a lineage of migratory Scandinavians. He was not considered a man of breeding by the mainlanders. He came here every summer whilst building the bothy, hoping eventually that becoming a man of property would secure him a wife and a lineage. Donnelly records that it did not work. He caught some disease from his malcontented goats and died 2 years after completing it. There was no one to carve white lines into the cliff for him either.
Radroj, could you please be my dictionary? What does bothy actually mean? I don't think I think I may have heard it in passing, but...
My heart is landfill. These false dawns waking into the still never light. I sweat for you in the small hours and wrap my blankets into a mass. I've always heard the waves break on these lost shores, always the gulls forgotten. I can lift this bottle to my ear, and all there ever is for me is this Hebridean music.
It's a little hut in remote parts of the country. Okay, so yeah, this one he mentioned. I assumed it was one of those fake words British people make up to sound fancy. No, we have lots of words. We don't need to make up new ones. The assumption is it's free lodging for the night if you find one. Oh, okay. Well, that's nice. It's a nice house. Well done, Jakobsen. Sorry you died. It feels almost like this game was the result of people having access to source tools, I forget what it's called, and looking at the Wikipedia page for the Hebridean Islands, and then just going, hey, there's a guy called Jakobsen who made that. Let's just build that. And then they had to put like a story on there. Here's a tub with some I'm gonna say that's rust. Cooking some beans. Who's Richard Burton? That name rings a bell. Why can't I remember who that is? Bunch of broken light bulbs. Is that the Bible? Oh, it's a history book. My grandparents have an outhouse, outbuilding that looks just like this. And a little bed, which I guess he slept in. The narration for the War of the Worlds musical. They've been eating beans in here. Beans mentioned. Radrush, I forgot to mention. There's a War of the Worlds musical live coming to London in like May or something. I saw a poster when I was at the O2 last weekend or so. And I was like, ooh! Because you've given me such a fond feeling for it after you forced us to watch it that one time. Why is this music still going? And I was like, damn, I could like use a birthday ploy and be like, hey, someone's got to come see War of the Worlds live on stage with me. Ugh. Is that different? Oh, now it's arrows with the arrow with the stop. There's something in my brain that nearly remembers what that is. It's some sort of scientific notation, I think. Why can't I remember? It was like 20 years ago. But I definitely remember. Is it a circuitry thing? I think it was circuitry. So we've got molecules, biological cells, and circuitry. Which way? Oh, do I go down? That's a cave. I want to go in the cave. Do animals live on these islands? Or are they just kind of really barren? I guess there couldn't really be any animals because there's no way for them to get here. You could turn a few of the Hebridean islands into like a sanctuary to rebuild the population of some animal that would just be in natural seclusion. Oh yeah, obviously there'd be some birds. Can I jump off? Whee! Why does it let you do this?
What to make of Donnelly, the laudanum and the syphilis? It is clearly not how he began, but I've been unable to discover if the former was a result of his visiting the island or the force that drove him here. For the syphilis, a drunk driver smashing his insides into a pulp as he stumbled these paths, I can only offer my empathy. We're all victims of our age. My disease is the internal combustion engine and the cheap fermentation of yeast.
She died in a car crash, we get it! Why are you putting in the effort to be so obtuse to begin with if you're just going to reiterate these metaphors as if we didn't put the effort into figuring it out? I feel like this was something that kind of rankled with me in Everybody's Gone to the Rapture as well. It was really, really long, but they didn't have enough information to convey to fill the runtime. No, that's not true. There's no way no one didn't realise a car crash was involved when you find 2 car doors and a broken tyre.
They found Jakobsen in early spring. The thaw had only just come. Even though he'd been dead nearly 7 months, his body had been frozen right down to the nerves and had not even begun to decompose. All around him, small flowers were reaching for the weak sun. The goats had adjusted happily to life without a shepherd and were grazing freely about the valley. Donnelly reports they hurled the body in fear and disgust down the shaft, but I cannot corroborate this story.
I should hope not. That would be kind of insane to try and corroborate. I mean, there'd be nothing left by now. So Donnelly was the writer of that history book that he found out stuff about the islands from. Bible. Bible time. I know the cross. I know that from Fallout New Vegas. I wonder how different of a game it would be if there was no narration whatsoever.
Climbing down to the caves, I slipped and fell and have injured my leg. I think the femur is broken. It is clearly infected. The skin has turned a bright, tight pink, and the pain is crashing in on waves, winter tides against my shoreline, drowning out the ache of my stones. I struggled back to the bothy to rest, but it has become clear that there is only one way this is likely to end. The medical supplies I looted from the trawler have suddenly found their purpose. They will keep me lucid for my final ascent.
This arrangement of stalagmites is like it's almost like walking into a room and being faced with a couple of hundred people staring at you. Like, it almost feels like they're a chorus. They're about to start singing. Here's another giant hole. Oh, wow. You actually slip. It forces you to slip in. I guess that's the fall that he mentioned.
Is my one true constant. Even though I wake in false dawns and find the landscape changing, flowing in constantly through my tears, I know his reaching is always upon me.
Ooh. Oh, that one kind of looked like a person. Oh my god. This looks fucking fantastic, and this was so old. Wow. God, it's just like, oh, a little candle. Just like everybody's gone to the rapture, I just kind of get stuck on how amazing it looks. Look, I made it orange and blue. Another screenshot. Fantastic visuals. Insane. Are these little drawings? Are they little molecules? Oh no, I think they're bioluminescent fungi or something. It's not just gamer colors, it's also movie colors. Oh, the stalagmites are singing. So when he starts talking about how cool, when he starts talking about uh-oh, I slipped and fell and I had to hobble back to the bothy and use the medical supplies I scavenged, it's not really very dramatic because I don't think he's on this island for any other reason than to just waste away here. If this island is in fact real, I don't know about that. It seems kind of halfway metaphorical. We're gonna end up in, I was gonna say not the Underdark, the one in Skyrim that's full of glowing mushrooms. I think I was crawling through that. Okay, there's a way up, and there's also... This seems like a circular room. Let's go for a little jog.
I sat by the side of the road. I was waiting for you to be cut out of the wreckage. The car looked like it had been dropped from a great height. The guts of the engine spilled over the tarmac, like water underground.
Wow, water underground? What a coincidence. That's what we're looking at right now. I mean, you already had a metaphor going with the guts of the car. Did we need a second one? I guess we weren't looking at guts literally in front of us, so... Sorry, I'm being mean. Sorry. A guy's wife is dead. I should be more sympathetic. Wow. Damn. So there's an awful lot of flowing downwards as a thing. Whee! I hope a little fish swims up to my my viewpoint. There's something here about him comparing himself to a kidney stone, then winding through the guts of this place like this is a bladder. Yeah, that sort of layout up there. I was thinking uterus for a second, actually. I'm not sure if that was intentional. Could game designers recognize a uterus in front of them if they were making one? There's a lot of metaphors. There's a lot of various metaphors that are coming into play visually, but then he also spells them out, but then he also uses other metaphors as he explains them. But yeah, the thing about the kidney stones is very much what this is. It was like I was a stone rattling around in the uterus of life, only to be thrust ashore and lost down in the valleys. Oh, we came up here a bit. Okay. Not sure how. The candles definitely make this feel a lot more metaphorical than literal, because how could there possibly be candles? But then again, maybe they just have this unimaginable compulsion to put candles on the floor of their games. I really liked the sequence in the church in Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. It's my favourite part of it. But that can't be real, right? There couldn't really be candles. Hey Soul, unfortunately we're gently making fun of this metaphorical memoir game. He's probably going to say something in a second, so I don't want to begin speaking. He bent down of his own accord. What happened to the torch you had, dude? Maybe we don't need it. I think the metaphor is that we're inside some kidneys and we're a kidney stone and we're about to be pissed into the world.
I am traveling through my own body, following the line of infection from the shattered femur towards the heart. I swallow fistfuls of painkillers to stay lucid. In my delirium, I see the twin lights of the moon and the Ariel shining to me through the rocks.
Can we see that? I'm trying to go the way that you aren't supposed to go, obviously, so I can have a look at everything. Swim! This music in this one sounds vaguely Enya. It sounds a little bit Lord of the Rings. Crystals. There's not even a collectible down here. There's not even like a kidney stone bobblehead. I know that not everybody here is familiar with stuff that Veg and 5 do, but when they played what was the name of it? When they played Firewatch, which was like one of the first games I ever streamed, they went through the whole thing together, actively engaging and digesting the premise and thinking through everything around them, and it's like a 5-6 hour game. And they were coming to conclusions and wanted to figure out if they were correct about whatever it was. And then the actual ending, it left them notably kind of deflated, because it's a twist sort of, actually it was none of the things that were implied, it's actually this. And neither of them liked it too much, and I know 5 specifically didn't want to be too negative on the stream in case people were really into it, and because it's an influential game. But then later on they were like, yeah, it kind of pissed me off with how pretentious it was. I feel like this is like 10 times more pretentious because of the way the narration is structured. I'm not sure how well that compares to Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, but... Okay, I'll read it out. Dear Esther, the night presses ceaselessly upon my back as I tumble into the precipice. I find I have slammed my penis in the car door, and I know I will never recover. Molecule. I feel this way about Beginner's Guide. I have such positive feelings after the fact about Beginner's Guide. This music is funeral music. Thank you for pointing that out. Is it specifically Hebridean kind of music? And how do you know that it's funeral music? Which hole do I go into? The eternal question. Walking sims have a bad habit from what I've seen where it can easily slip into pretentiousness. I think it might be just because people can make a video game, you can create the environment, you can make it look fantastic, but then you have to write something, and when people aren't trained writers, it's like any other video game in that somebody goes, hey, I mean, I could write something, and then they put together what they think sounds fun and interesting to them. And what is that? Oh, it's floating paper boats. It's letters that have been folded into paper boats. Okay. History not practiced widely anymore, but women did these songs at funerals. Cool. If nothing else, I have learned something about a real location. Deadass, this, I have to figure out what that is. I know it's some kind of cell, but the way it's drawn, I'm sure I had to do that in a class of some kind. It's not Venus. Did I miss the turning? Where was the... Oh god, am I lost? Where was the hole? Wasn't there a hole? I'm confused. How would you guys feel if you were suddenly found yourself in a cave exactly like this? Would this make you panic, or would you be interested to look around? One thing I could compare this to is I'd be so damp and mad and damp. I'd want to figure out why the hell I was in a walking sim. It's because your wife died, obviously. And this is how you're processing it. Break my leg and recite Bible verses. I could compare this to Subnautica Below Zero in that Subnautica Below Zero had the tech within it to let the main character have conversations with other people, including a secondary character who, for a majority of the game, only exists inside her head. So, you know, you just hear her speaking and a voice replying to you without anything visually happening. And that enabled them to write actual dialogue, whereas in the first one, you only listened to other people's dialogue or radio broadcasts or the ship, the thing that makes stuff. And when that happened, everybody started saying, that kind of sucked and was bad, and they never should have put dialogue in Subnautica. It doesn't fit. But those people are wrong. There's nothing wrong with putting dialogue in Subnautica as just in itself. It's because they weren't writing good dialogue. They needed better skills at what they were doing. it wasn't the fault of the thing existing. They forgot to put the good in it. I mean, it wasn't all terrible, but there were a lot of things where I thought, look, you need training to understand how to do dialogue, and it's only gotten worse a little bit. You know, that kind of modern dialogue where people have only ever watched Marvel movies, and then they make a video game and they go, yeah, I know dialogue, I've watched characters speak before. You need to read books, guys. An action movie a couple of times a year does not cut it. Anyway, that's kind of like this. Like, there's a hell of a lot of amazing skill in environment design and music design and everything like that. This is pretty top notch, especially for its day. But you need to know how to write a narrative to make a video game, unless absolutely nothing happens. Okay, I guess we're on the other side of the big urine thing now. Wait, wasn't I here already? Marvel writing, you mean good moment immediately followed by a joke, repeat for entire movie? I find there's so many things... Don't speak to me and my son ever again. There's so many things that they lack the ability to engage genuinely with themselves, and we cannot as a society exist on that kind of fiction. You just can't. We cannot be you know, when you see a film and they undercut all of the sincerity with a joke, or anything serious happens and they immediately do something stupid to pull the focus off the serious thing. It's because they can't commit to being serious or saying anything, because they're scared that someone won't like it, and they have to immediately move on to something else, or make it sound stupid, or say, what do you mean by that? That sounds like a big fart, you know? You can't do that. You have to engage with complete sincerity with what you're saying, or there's no point in you making it. And if you just watch movies and then try and write something, I'm afraid that may not be clear to you. This is a weird pull, but you might like Scorn. Incredibly bizarre, tightly written, lived in locations, not a word of dialogue. I don't remember that, apart from it being horrifically violent. It was like the ideal game for you, wasn't it? Yet again, you're recommending me games like that and Warframe that are legitimately amazing games, that are high quality, that I'm probably not going to play because I don't know, because I don't play good video games. I just play middling ones and gachas for some reason. What's that? That looks like if a nerve cell were a clown. A sense of uncertainty with their own writing, which isn't good. Yeah, I mean, you can be really certain about it and it can still be bad. Wasn't I here already? Wasn't I already in this, this pool? God, did I go backwards? Oh, God. I hope I didn't go backwards. I think I went backwards. Another day in the piss factory. That's what every bladder molecule says to the other one. No, sorry, kidney. Kidney is the piss factory. I apologize. I did take a biology A level, and I passed, and I know that the piss is made in the kidneys and stored in the balls. If it's not too much to ask, could someone clip that? Oh yeah, Soul Wiggle is back. The new and improved Wiggle. Comma Bandit landing in the chat with everybody keeps asking me if they can drink the piss. Buddy, they won't even let me drink it. Yeah, I think I went backwards by accident. Not too fond of this. The environment is amazing and it's great to spend time in it, but please don't make me go around in circles in a cave. I've seen Scorn. The only advice I could give is I hope you're not squeamish. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that Radrosh recommends to people. It's like really, really good games that probably are too violent for many people to stomach. And I mean that in a complimentary way. I'm trying to be higher brow about this, but I did walk in and see the luminescent paint and have to stuff a sock in my mouth. Evil little emoji. I haven't thought about Scorn in ages. I think I've forgotten everything about it apart from it being something to do with flaying. I don't know. Wouldn't it be funny if there was a walking simulator and the whole game involved you ending up in a cave, and then you think you're progressing and you end up going down a hole and then round up a corridor and back up and then down a hole again, and then it just loops like eternally and there's no more game and you just walk in a loop around and around and around until you get bored of trying to figure it out, and there legitimately isn't a way forward. You just start going around in circles forever and it lasts until you lose patience. Wouldn't that be a fun way to do a video game? Oh, that hole was the one I came in through. That's why I went backwards. I completely didn't clock that that was the entrance to the room. That just sounds like a tech demo. No, it's my original idea. Don't steal. It was too expensive. Well, there's this, the spring Steam sale is on. I can't say that. Spring Steam sale. Perhaps it now comes with a discount. Perhaps it comes with a discount. Which character from Futurama is that? Welcome to the world of tomorrow. Okay, so where is the forward point from this room? Wait a minute. This is all paint. There's the molecule again. There's a can of paint. So it's like he's been here painting more shit on the walls. What is this? I know that! That's a non-repeating diode. Wait. Not non-repeating. Someone who knows what they're talking about will I am not someone who knows what this is, but that's a circuitry thing. I remember drawing these. Hang on, give me 2 seconds. I need to look this up. I haven't done circuitry drawing since I did like physics in high school, but I do remember some of them. Circuit symbols. Yeah, I remember those. Where's the diode? I'm sure that's what it was. BBC isn't helping. They don't have the more complex ones. There it is. Oh, this is, I think. Let me check again. Oh, it's got a kind of a thing on the end. It's either a variable resistor or a thermistor upside down. God, that brings back memories. It feels like somebody went through their high school biology, chemistry, and physics notes. Those three things separately. And just started putting things in. There's a circuit. That's a whole circuit. I remember this. What's the wiggly thing again? I don't see it on here. What was the wiggly thing? I remember the wiggly things. The two lines were cells, but those have a line through them. Oh, and the triangle with a line next to it is an LED. It's really weird. This is making me, like, I'm enjoying looking at them because it just reminds me of something that I had to do when I was younger that I haven't thought about since. The wiggly thing. No, not that wiggly thing. Okay, genuinely, but where do I go? please. Where do I go now? Can you just... I don't see any other way out. And this is as fast as I can walk. I don't know why I burst out so confidently with the thing that actually is not. Oh, there's a path that goes upward. I didn't see it because I got distracted by this bridge. Comma Bandit, do you know what this molecule is? I think it keeps changing, actually. What are these little circles with arrows on? I don't remember enough about chemistry and physics notation to know what all of them are, but I do remember drawing stuff like that. I got biology, chemistry, and physics GCSEs. And then I got a biology A-level. And I was doing a chemistry A-level. And I didn't get it because I was too stupid. And that's the story of when I was at school. I do remember that's a nerve cell. That's the canonical backstory of me. Pi is bad at chemistry. Ammonium attached to an aromatic ring of some kind? Oh! Sorry, we're in the crystal cave now. Well, Comma Bandit, you have said more stuff about what that is than anyone else. We're in some kind of pebbly cave tunnel. Aromatic ring is my crime-fighting name.
This is a drowned man's face, reflected in the moonlit waters. It can only be a dead shepherd who has come to drunk drive you home.
Do you think maybe somebody died from drunk driving, perhaps? Do you think maybe there was an incident with a drunk driver? We still don't know what that is, other than what must not be named. I'm starting to think that perhaps Esther died in a... Oh, here's Damascus again. Damascus versus Taken. The rap battle of all time. When you blacklight my bedroom after a weekend. Sorry, I couldn't not do it anymore. Sorry. I couldn't be highbrow about this any longer. Away from being a city. It's getting greener. I think we've been in the caves longer than we were on the island. They really should have made the marketing of the game instead of like the heath of the island. It should have just been caving. Any Best Western under a black light? What's a Best Western? You'll have to enlighten me. Blasting university level diagrams? That's how you know. That's where the talent is. There's some doctor way on the other end of this like, dude, your urethra is not right. Oh, these aren't stalactites anymore. They're kind of like plants. I guess I'm going in another hole. So if there's any literality... Hang on. If there's any literality to this whatsoever... he keeps on almost going in holes or actually going in holes. If this was some sort of real thing he did, he came to this island and just kept on going deeper into holes in it. I would actually prefer if this game was about some sort of metaphorical psychosis and you kept on going into holes deeper and deeper into the thing. And there wasn't any backstory or narration. I just want this to be about going deeper into places you know would be bad. I want it to be about... What's the kind of phobia you have where you don't like going caving? Oh look, another hole. What a surprise. Should I try and go around? Oh no, I've slipped. Oh no. There we go. careful, there might be Falmer down there. It really did look like that, didn't it? I cannot be serious about this game any longer. I'm sorry. I was approaching it genuinely, but right now it's just on the slight wrong side of kinda silly. Where's the concertinaed car? I guess it's that. It's less concertinaed than was hinted at. Fucked up in the crib sipping Nern roots. They did look like Nern roots. Hello. Well, this is what the M5 looks like. I think. That's pretty accurate. I bet there's gamers that up until this exact moment had not realized there was a car crash. No, you can't make me believe that, please. Okay, I thought it was going to end there, and I was like, well, that's fitting. The most maintained British motorway. Is the M5 the one I go on all the time? I can't remember. I don't drive. Hey. Hey, go up, stupid. I don't know anything about the M5, but that made me laugh. Which bit? I couldn't go up there for a minute. I wonder if that was weird controls or if it was unintentional. So, has he... If it ended there, then he would have, like, succumbed to his guilt, I guess. But since we have climbed out of the pool, after seeing the crash site, I assume we may be moving on? So I think when we're discussing controversiality about games and narratives and things like that, what you need to do is be able to hone your criticism. You need to be able to direct it at the correct thing. So for example, when I mentioned Subnautica Below Zero, people were saying you shouldn't have put dialogue in the game because that ruined it, but that wasn't really quite true. It would be absolutely fine with dialogue and characters and everything like that. It just needs to be written well. So you need to be aware that it's really not... You can't expect the game to be the same again. Also, I'm absolutely fine with them expanding and adding new elements and stuff. I think if you make a criticism based on it's not exactly like the previous one, that comes from a point of... that's just a flawed premise, because no game is ever going to be the same as the previous one. You couldn't rebuild Subnautica 1, where it was serious and lonely and frightening, genuinely really frightening and isolated, because that was that game. And if you want that, that was the first game. So you can't demand that they do it again. And if you're going to move away from it, which they would have to, because you're not going to be that alone and scared and isolated again, because you know about Subnautica now. You can't go into it and still be frightened by everything, because you've already been there and seen it and become a bit desensitized. So doing the scary one first is exactly the right thing to aim for, because everyone is terrified of not knowing how to do anything, or what they're going to explore and what they're going to find, what kind of creatures there are. And then the second one is still pretty scary, but they've also added more layers. So it's not just about being terrified of being underwater. It's also more about the storyline, more about the emotional core of a main character and how she interacts with the world. And that was flawed in some respects, but you can't blame it for being different, I think is my point. So yeah, you need to know where you're aiming, and that's a thing it takes honing, it takes skill of its own to know what it is that you want to I don't want to say criticize, but Below Zero wasn't really that scary. Yeah, that's kind of my point. They didn't lean into that because they couldn't up that ante in the same way. They couldn't just make it the same. Now that you're familiar with how Subnautica works, we have to try and make this really, really scary so that people are still scared. I think that would have been a bad decision. They made a different kind of game because you can't expect a game developer to invert the laws of only being able to experience something the one time. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. So they made something different. They should have written better dialogue. They should have been a bit more consistent in characterization. They should have made it a bit less cringy to listen to. But the fact that it was different and had two characters was not in itself the problem, is all I mean. So, I forgot my point. I think my point was, when it's a walking simulator, you know, they got a lot of... It was controversial because people were saying it's not a real game. There's no test of skill involved. You just walk around and you have to be patient, and the storyline might go over your head if you're not paying attention, or maybe even if you are paying attention. I think you need to separate the idea of, am I criticizing this game because it has a lack of gameplay? Because it was one of the first things that had done something like that, where you're simply experiencing a story being told to you. Or did you find it unsatisfying because the story being told to you was insufficient? Or in this case, was kind of too pretentious? So that might be an element of not being able to aim criticism at the correct target. People stopped at the idea, I don't like this style of thing, and it's too different from what I'm used to. And what they were really thinking, you know that XKCD comic where a man writes a bad equation on a board and the guy says, wow, you suck at math. And then a woman stick figure also writes a bad equation on a board and the guy says, wow, girls suck at math. That's this game. Walking simulators aren't bad, but this one needed better things. Sorry, what was going on in chat? Hang on. I just talked for ages. I think people back then were pissed off about it being a walking sim at all, not an incredibly pretentious one. Yes, that's what I was saying. That's the point I was getting at. It wasn't the walking sim's fault. Walking sims can be anything. It's this one having flaws, you know, is the point that you want to be criticizing. The discussion around this game was less about the writing and more about the fact that it was a new genre of thing. Yeah, so people didn't really know how to react to it. I don't know why that loading screen didn't load while I wasn't tabbed into it. Hey, look, we got out of the cave. Wouldn't it be really funny? Sorry, I'm just saying this because I'm trying to invent a way to make the game be less pretentious and have some sort of really silly eyeball cave. It is an eye. Yeah. Wouldn't it be funny if you walked past this tent and like a werewolf jumped down and killed you? It is so gorgeous though. There's another one called Gone Home that was also essentially a baby walking sim, and people got real mad that it was 1, a walking sim, and 2, lesbian or gay. Yep, I remember Gone Home. Isn't Gone Home... Wait. Yeah, Gone Home is the one where you walk around a family home and you look at, like...
I sat here and watched 2 jets carve parallel white lines into the sky.
Just like
They
everybody's gone to the
charted their
Rapture.
course, and I followed them for 21 minutes until they turned off near Sanford and were lost. If I were a gull, I would abandon my nest and join them. I would starve my brain of oxygen and suffer delusions of transcendence.
I think you
I would
are.
tear the bottom from my boat and sail across the motorways until I reached this island once again.
Yeah, we get it. The island is a metaphor for your emotional state after witnessing the death of your wife in a car crash with a drunk driver. God! I hope a funny wisecracking pirate skeleton hops out. Nobody would expect it. Same. I think you need something different. You know what it is? It's because my brain is clamoring for them to add some different element. This has the exact same flaw. Hang on, I need to go back and look at the drawing. I thought we were going closer to it. That sure is a circuit, but I don't think I can go that way. This has the exact same flaw as Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, in that they explain the premise really vaguely, which encourages you to really think and get into it and digest what's happened around you and think about what's being said. And then they just keep saying that same thing over and over, and it gets more obvious. So what was the point in me putting in the effort to think about this if you were just being vague on purpose? Pictures of the car and blood splatter.
Fire and soil, I chose fire. It seemed the more contemporary of the options, the more sanitary. I could not bear the thought of the reassembly of such a ruins. Stitching arm to shoulder and femur to hip, charting a line of thread like traffic stilled on a motorway, making it all acceptable for tearful aunts and traumatized uncles flown in specially for the occasion. Reduce to ash, mix with water, make a phosphorescent paint for these rocks and ceilings.
Wait, what? What is the phosphorescent paint for? I don't actually get this. When it should have been pictures of a pirate skeleton. Hang on, I'm missing stuff. You could have the game take itself really seriously and then deflate the moment with a joke. I think it'd be great for getting everyone on board. Oh, I wonder what he's talking about. I feel bad that we've devolved into making fun of it. But, like, really, guys? Yeah, it's about your kidney stones again. Oh, I heard the sound of a... What's that machine called? The thing where you put sound waves? Kidney bowl. No, what's the name of the sonogram? Is that the name of the machine? Oh my god, this beeping music is actually really good. That's, funnily enough, not what I meant, Sol Waspman. I mean, the thing that you use... you can use it on pregnant people to see the growing baby in there and make a picture of it. It's the machine where you kind of... You use sound waves. Ultrasound, yeah, like an ultrasound thing. You can use ultrasound on kidney stones to see where they are in the kidneys. I think that's what this machine is. I think you would, like, press that palette to the person's body and you'd be able to visualize what things were inside. I heard that sound at some point ages ago. Probably in the first section when we were wandering the island, I heard the sound of one of those machines. And I just dismissed it. But that is actually, I think, the cleverest thing the game has done. And I know it's kind of only foreshadowing, but I legitimately did go, can I hear a sonogram in the background at one point? And now there literally is one. And I do kind of like that, honestly. It's so weird. Why the sonogram? Why is he thinking about his kidney stones constantly? Sorry. In fairness, I think this is like going back and playing Morrowind. It was doing something new and exciting at the time, but is now very dated. The thing is, though, there's nothing dated about this. That was the fault of it being experimental. Do you think the dev had a kidney stone? God, maybe. Oh, jeez. If it was a dev that had a wife who died in a car accident, then you would have to be sympathetic, because... Was the wife pregnant? Is that the twist? I think Sol Wassman might have it. I think the kidney stone thing maybe was like a red herring to make you think about it just being kidney stones, but in fact the sonogram was about pregnancy. Was the car pregnant? I think Sins has it. I think we've solved it at last. We are trying so hard to solve mysteries that it may not even have. Kidney stone! I can't do this. Okay, we're walking into a maze now or something. Everybody is making the same joke. Well done, guys. The visuals are, like, so good. The music is really good. Oh, the tower is up there. I assumed we'd be going there, just like everybody's gone to the Rapture. We'd see a tower in the distance and end up at it for the ending. There's nothing dated about this that is the constraint of it being made years ago. The only thing that's kind of dated, not dated, the thing that's holding it back is just the way it's written. And people have been writing things for a billion trillion years, and you should be able to do that. Hush, we have to pass around the brain cell. Wasn't this basically the first walking sim? I believe it was. It was something like, it was a very early one. I'm just back at the... Do I go up there or should I have gone the other way? I don't know. It's very weird in how often it gives you an option for which way to go and you have no idea which way progresses it. And Everybody's Gone to the Rapture was the same way. Games have been around for a few decades and writing has been around for... Writing has been around for... I mean, no kidding, since the dawn of time. I mean, literally, storytelling is as old as we are. Storytelling existed second one of people. Writing for games is very different from anything else. I mean, the execution kind of is, but we're talking about the concept of how to convey information in a way that is satisfying, and that did have a new thing to contend with in being, you know, a walking sim. There's no gaming related writing. The kidney stones were actually Mario. No, I think there is a slightly lack in competency when you start repeating yourself this much, which they did in both of their games. Okay, which brave soul is going to look up which molecule this is? Actually, what is that? Is it backwards? Is it N-O? Or is it O-N? Oh, it's not backwards because the N would be the wrong way around. Sorry. Not sure. The kidney stones represent sands. Hang on, I'm missing stuff. I need to, hang on, I'll extend the chat a bit so I can read more. It's not like I'm missing any UI elements. I looked it up and a lot of these are nonsense. Well, that does make sense. It's funny that you don't know they're nonsense unless you know something about chemistry, though. The unique challenge of game writing is the player being able to choose what to focus on and what order to do stuff. But in this, there's literally a narrator telling you the stuff the same way every time, so it doesn't really apply. Wow, I wonder what this is about. Do you think maybe somebody got into a shipping accident? He loved that car so dearly. What if Esther was his car? What if she was like what if he named his car? What if he was one of those guys who names his car? I don't know which solution I like more. The car being pregnant or the car being named Esther.
Diagrams on the posters on the walls on the waiting room. It seemed appropriate at the time. Still life abstractions of the processes which had already begun to break down your nerves and your muscles in the next room.
That's so gorgeous.
I crammed diazepam as I once crammed for chemistry examinations. I am revising my options for a long and happy life.
Hang on, I want to take a screenshot of this too. I love the single candle glowing in the rock pools. We're coming up with... Okay, so the problem is we are coming up with actually more exciting and better ideas for what's happening. Oh! Is that one of those ancient chalk carvings? He does some beautiful turns of phrase in this, but he does so many that he's burling in place. That's a really good way to put it. There is a poet. It is like a playable poem, and that's fine. It's just the thing which I am blaming the developers for. I'm going to take a screenshot of that too. Because we played the other game that came after this, spiritually the same vein, called Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, and I'm noticing it had some very similar flaws. So I'm now coming down a little hard on them because they've made the same mistakes twice. And they might have needed someone to say, don't come up with this backstory and then reveal it really vaguely and then keep revealing the same plot point repeatedly the entire way through the game. Because people who already figured it out will get bored and they will start coming up with different plots. Like the car was pregnant. A light from heaven shone. It's also very thematically similar, like having a religion overlaying the whole thing, references to the Bible, niche British culture in a way as well. Most of the chemical formulae just
From
represent
here,
alcohol,
I can see my
dopamine, and the
armada.
chemicals for fluorescent paint. Thank you.
I collected all the letters I'd ever meant to send to you, if I'd have ever made it to the mainland, but had instead collected at the bottom of my rucksack, and I spread them out along the lost beach. Then I took each and every one, and I folded them into boats. I folded you into the creases, and then, as the sun was setting, I set the fleet to sail. Shattered into 21 pieces, I consigned you to the Atlantic, and I sat here until I'd watched all of you sink.
This might... I don't know whether I like the fact that we already found the letters in boats collecting in the cave. I liked the cave boats better than this, where he didn't explain them. Car pregnancy. Yeah, you know, Cars 8. Lightning McQueen's miscarriage. Just staying completely quiet and seeing if anyone even responds to that. On a sudden, a light from heaven shone around him, and he fell to the ground. Ms. Carriage, a Cars Universe drag queen name. That is the cleverest thing I have ever heard. How do I go on? How do I fucking go on knowing that there is no Cars film where that happens? I can't do this. Yeah, I think we've talked about that film before, actually. That's exactly the kind of thing that Radwash would have mentioned, or someone would have brought it up and gone, hey, that sounds fun. The fun thing about being her friend is that whenever there's something that would appeal to her, it's like so obvious. I don't know what it is. You too, Scenes. Sometimes there are things that you look at and you're like, my friend would like that. And sometimes your friend has such specific tastes that you could hear about a film where somebody gets pregnant by a car and then go, yeah, two of my friends would love that. And it's not even because they're into cars, which I assume is like an ancillary audience. My voice is dropping out of this because I've been yelling.
Over dead on the road to Damascus, they resuscitated him by hitting him in the chest with stones gathered by the roadside. He was lifeless for 21 minutes, certainly long enough for the oxygen levels in his brain to have decreased and caused hallucinations and delusions of transcendence. I'm running out of painkillers, and the moon has become almost unbearably bright.
This guy sounds so familiar. I want to look up who the actor was. So when he was talking about Paul, I assume he meant the Beetle. No, I mean the disciple Paul. That was one of them, right? I don't know, I'm not religious. It would make a lot of sense. Rick goes lost in the caves. It would make a lot of sense if this is some kind... He keeps talking about hallucinations while dying, and that's so obvious, but like, yeah, this kind of is what that would be. It feels like it was made obvious that he came to this island if that's what happened. To wander around and just die somewhere. This island is kind of a suicide for him.
I've begun my voyage in a paper boat without a bottom. I will fly to the moon in it. I've been folded along a crease in time, a weakness in the sheet of life. Now you've settled on the opposite side of the paper to me. I can see your traces in the ink that soaks through the fibre, the pulped vegetation. When we become waterlogged and the cage disintegrates, we will intermingle. When this paper aeroplane leaves the cliff edge and carves parallel vapor trails in the dark, we will come together.
And as he was proceeding on his journey... Oh, thank you. Sorry, I don't have a quick mute for sneezes, so you just have to put up with those. It's so strange. He keeps mixing metaphors, and although it kind of messes with the effect of what he's saying, maybe I can't really criticize him, because if these are his dying thoughts as his consciousness is dissolving, I can't really criticize him for using metaphors weird. Oh, I don't like that creepy wind. Is he dying? Is this him dying?
If only Donnelly had experienced this, he would have realized he was his own shoreline, as am I. Just as I am becoming this island, so he became his syphilis, retreating into the burning synapses, the stones, the infection.
Mexico filter. So why is there this tower with a blinking light, which apparently is to do with aviation, that's been overlooking us the whole time, which we appear to be going towards? Was it just because there needed to be some sort of foreshadowed finality?
There are headlights reflected in these retinas.
Oh my god.
Too long in the tunnels of my island without a bottom. The sea creatures have risen to the surface, but the gulls are not here to carry them back to their nests. I've become fixed, open and staring, an eye turned on itself. I've become an infected leg whose tracking lines form a perfect map of the junctions of the M5. I will take the exit at mid-thigh and plummet to my Esther.
I genuinely think this would be better as a story if Esther was his car. And then rattling around in the tubes of the island's caves would be a metaphor for the exhaust pipe and the workings of the car itself. Bothy maxing. Is this game about the M5? It might as well be. I think it is. Yeah. It's a very pretty game about the M5. That's the problem with this. We've not had any new information for so long because we were attentive and we got it about a third of the way through. Yeah, I like the music as well. But because we haven't had any new information to occupy us while we walk around, we've just started coming up with other random shit. You can't tell a story that finished 50 minutes ago. This isn't because of the newness of the game, it's just how storytelling works. Music was done by the writer's wife, but that's nice. Presumably she's not dead in a car accident. Okay, so another interesting thing that might work quite well, you're walking up here, we've already had several forced slips in the caves. There's a wind picking up. What if you're about to reach the tower and then the wind just kind of blows you off the edge uncontrollably? Because, this whole thing is his helpless devolution into throwing his life away.
I have dredged these waters for the bones of the hermit, for the traces of Donnelly, for any sign of Jakobsen's flock, for the empty bottle that would incriminate him. I have scoured this stretch of motorway 21 times, attempting to recreate his trajectory. The point when his heart stopped dead and all he saw was the moon over the Sanford Junction. He was not drunk, Esther. He was not drunk at all, and it was not his fault. It was the converging lines that doomed him. This is not a recorded natural condition. The gulls do not fly so low over the motorway and cause him to swerve. The paint scored away from his car in lines like an infection, making directly for the heart.
Okay, wait. So, actually, he wasn't drunk, unless this is just non-canon. The car accident was caused by the motorway's lines being drawn wrong, so the car followed the lines wrong and they crashed, and that's why there is luminescent paint everywhere. Which would be fine, except that there's also a lot of references to alcohol, like the chemical for alcohol was on the walls as well. Non-canon is a funny way to say it didn't happen. I'm sorry, I'm losing my ability to think of words, because this game took them all. Well, that doesn't... Okay, no, that doesn't make sense. There's levels to how that doesn't make sense in an unreliable narrator way. I think he's just losing his mind. I think he's maybe doing the bargaining bit of grief. Because there's no way that... He was saying that to Esther. He was saying to her, he wasn't drunk, it was the fault of the lines drawn on the motorway. But he couldn't be saying that, because that implies that Esther was the one who insisted he was drunk. And I don't think she did, because didn't she die? Oh no, wait, she was in the hospital and she was like deteriorating. And there's no way that happens with her still being conscious at any point. She had to have like been crushed beyond consciousness, so she was not arguing with him. Right? If I'm understanding this correctly. So I think that's... Yeah, as Scene says, I think he's coping and possibly seething. So I don't know which one is true, but maybe it doesn't matter. I can't read this. It's too close. What were with? Oh, I just realized. Okay, this is actually... I like this, actually. You know at the beginning where we saw him look up the cliff, and he said they chiseled lines into it as a way of warning that there was death on the island, and that possibly people shouldn't land here in case it was an infectious disease. And he mentioned something like, my white lines, this, and I thought maybe he'd cut one of the lines himself. But his version of it is daubing luminescent paint all over the cliffs, which is like an unhinged thing to do. But it fits into the same niche, doesn't it? That's the same as cutting a line because someone died. It's just like a destructive way, in the same way that him being on this island, if it is real, is a manifestation of his desire to self-destruct. Oh god, the sound design is so good. You can hear the clinking of these metal gates.
I have run out of places to climb. I will abandon this body and take to the air.
I'm not sure why it's ending here, though.
Dear Esther,
I'm not playing anymore.
My belongings, my books, this death
Control has been
certificate.
taken from me.
Mine will be written all across this island. Who was Jakobsen? Who remembers him? Donnelly has written of him, but who was Donnelly? Who remembers him? I have painted, carved, hewn, scored into this space all that I could draw from him. There will be another to these shores to remember me. I will rise from the ocean like an island without bottom, come together like a stone, become an aerial, a beacon, that they will not forget you. We have always been drawn here. One day the gulls will return and nest in our bones and our history. I will look to my left and see Esther Donnelly flying beside me. I will look to my right and see Paul Jakobsen flying beside me. They will leave white lines carved into the air to reach the mainland, where help will be sent.
Imagine if he hits the water and lives. Oh, he turned into a bird. He found the diving goggles! No! I think the reason it has cells and circuits and stuff drawn on the walls is just that, like, he was a scientist, and that's part of how his brain processes things. He's thinking about it in terms of molecules and circuitry. Maybe he was an engineer as well or something. That's just like a personal method of data processing for his mind. There's so many elements to this. There's his personal touch of daubing technical diagrams as his way of understanding things. There's the unification of the island with a sort of physical human body that's been referenced. There was the kidney stone thing, which I think only makes sense if it was that she was pregnant, and it was like a way of... Because that's subtle as hell. That's way more subtle than anything else the game did.
Come back.
But the ultrasound noise earlier on was really clever if you're meant to make a connection there. The end. Right? I got an achievement named Paul. What was up with Paul from the Bible? I don't know enough about the Bible to get that reference. There was oh, there's Paul Golding. So Nigel Carrington was the guy. Why does that sound familiar? Amazing music, incredible visuals. Just like Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, I'm not sure what they were going for or how well they pulled it off. Bible fans, help me out here. You got ending 6, Paul. Yeah, imagine if there were multiple endings. There's one where he just goes home and Esther comes back from the hospital. And she's like, they told me it's a girl. What do you mean car crash? That was 3 years ago. We know every bump of this man's kidney stones, but not a single thing about what Esther was like. That is so true. Okay, I'm gonna turn my walking simulator about a man's grief beam on, because when we did Firewatch, the kind of vibe that gave me was like they didn't intend to make it about women, but they kind of did, because all of the other characters are women except one at the end, and everything that happens seems like it's women's fault. You know, it's a woman's fault that he feels so guilty that he had to come out here and his marriage is ending, but it's a woman's fault. And there's other women here that make fun of him and it's their fault. And he gets along with this other woman that he's just met, and he may be making everything up in his own head about her, and that's her fault too. You know, it just feels kind of full of blame. And this one is named after Esther, but it was all about this guy. If he really loved Esther, why wasn't it about her? Anyway, that was Dear Esther by The Chinese Room. Oh, that's not something that many people would think about Firewatch. That was just a really personal thing that they kept on being like tiny little pebbles added to this stack of Firewatch is weird about women pebbles. And there were just a lot of them. It's absolutely not a universal thing, but I just had it in the back of my mind. This does smack of game made by the husband and wife duo. I mean, I don't want to criticize it on things it doesn't have, but I think we've said everything that needed to be said throughout the duration of the game. The one thing I did pick up on at the very end, there was a tiny little connection made where he said Esther's full name. She is Esther Donnelly. So I believe he looked back into her family history and found out that one of her ancestors was the Donnelly who wrote a history book about this island. And then he decided to come here in order to end his life, so that there was some sort of connection to Esther in what he did, because he wanted it to be about her. Because the reason he couldn't see any way of living anymore was that she was gone. So he did all this research and he tried to imbue it with as much meaning as possible, because he thought, I'm here learning about Donnelly, who wrote a book about the previous guy. I am now the next person in a string of men who lived and died and were connected with this island, and maybe in the future someone else will come along and will find out about me and my kidney stones. Actually, I think it would have been more interesting if you, the player, were the next person in that sequence, instead of you being Mr. Esther, who jumps off at the end, but what do I know? Anyway, that was a game that changed the environment of what games can do. I think you can really feel the similarities to Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. They have a certain set of things in both that are really rigidly there. Anyway. It's been like a couple of hours. Does anyone want to open some Pokemon cards while we're all here? Since we're all just like hanging out. Where's OBS? Come here. Maybe you aren't playing as him and the guy gets his wish of having his story seen by the next person that came to the island. I don't think so. I think the ending with him jumping off and everything, I mean, it would make more sense to me because you're walking through and seeing what he did. You're seeing all the paint he splattered around and drew stuff. Maybe you are. Maybe you are the person who turned up. But then again, you know what to do now. Go to this island. Go to the M5. There was a lot about the island that was metaphorical and seemingly specific to Esther's husband. Was he her husband? Did I make that up, or was it just implied? Like the fact that when you get there, you immediately see a little cliff valley with a couple of car doors and a tire in it, which I don't think could possibly have been there. So that has to be an aspect of his subconscious, which has to be the specific guy we're talking about. But this was a criticism I also had about Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, in that I don't think it really... The most normal Hebridean day. I don't think it made itself work as a walking simulator when it completely disregarded the identity of the player. This may not work for everyone, but I feel like the fact that you are there in this environment and doing these things needs to be somehow involved in how the game works. For another example, I think about Abduction like all the time. Abduction was a really amazing game, and I actually wouldn't have even figured out what was going on in the storyline if there hadn't been other fans in the chat telling me to check stuff or to connect stuff. I would have been dead ass just too dumb to understand the full extent of what was happening, which is... That's good. It's good. There should be... I shouldn't be that stupid, but I should need to rise to the occasion on that. In Abduction, your identity is part of the game. You are a person who exists, who is acknowledged by the world and the other people in it. And they tell you to do stuff, and you grow to understand what happened in the environment as you go. and your existence is not. It's part of what's going on. You're in the same situation as many other people who have ended up where they are. The same thing has happened to you. You have like comrades in arms implied. Your identity is an aspect of that narrative. And I don't really understand when walking simulators act like the identity of the person you're playing as isn't a factor in anything. In that one, we are led to assume that you are Esther's significant other who is doing the narration. As Sol Wasserman said, it could be possible that you aren't. Perhaps you are just someone who is coming after the fact. As mentioned, a guy who is experiencing the story of the previous people who've been on the island and just also happened to want to jump off the giant crane and then also turned into a bird. Everybody's gone to the rapture. I thought this was a real weak point because you go around listening to everybody's stories and understanding the characters around you, but you, the person playing the game, couldn't possibly exist because the game, I think it was pretty explicit basically about just changing the game. I think it made it kind of clear that everybody on Earth had died. And there was nobody left that could have been you. That was the plot of the game. So then who are you as the player? Are you a person? Because you shouldn't exist. And there's even a sprint button. So you presumably exist in it with a physical body that has the ability to sprint slightly faster. And you look like... Were there shadows? Were there footfalls like a human? I mean... You're implied to be a person, but shouldn't there not have been any people? That part just confuses me. I don't think you can disregard the identity of the person that you exist as, the point of view that you have on that game world. You're listening to stories about other people, but who are you? You know? You're there. You exist in that space as well. I came to this island to base jump, but there's luminescent paint everywhere. Not clickbait, gone sexual. I'm sorry. Okay, as usual, my brain is fried. We are playing... Hang on, I've got to change... Hang on, I've got to navigate. Get rid of the circuitry drawings, go to Twitch, and change the game I'm playing. There we go. GG, boys. Do you think we solved it? Do you think we solved Dear Esther? Did we do enough solving? Brain fried open gacha. This is like the least gacha because it's a card game and that's just real life, baby. Alright. Never fear. I've got a text file with the codes in it. It's not valid. Oh no. Please tell me I didn't do these wrong. Please tell me these are valid. Okay, one of them worked. These, once again, as usual, were donated by Scenes, who occasionally comes into possession of online openable card codes. But sometimes some old ones get mixed in or something, and sometimes they come out of a big bin of stuff that people didn't want, and whether they're viable, we just don't know. But that's just how things are. Yeah, it's okay, we got 4, that's fine. We'll still get to see some cards. These are all the Shrouded Fable booster pack. If they're really new, they may even have Pokemon I haven't seen, because I didn't play Scarlet or Violet. Like, who is this guy on the front? I have no clue. That's incredibly intimidating. Like, two of them, everybody. Stanced up. A third one! A third Beware has hit the pentagon. Akira, is that how you say that? you can have 2 water energy and 2 metal energy, and then 1 additional energy. To discard all energy from this Pokemon, this attack does 110 damage to 3 of your opponent's Pokemon. If your opponent has any cards in their discard pile that have Colress in the name, this Pokemon can use the Trifrost attack for a single any energy. That's insane. That's an insane requirement. What? So this card is just a complete beats all counter to anyone who had Colress. I don't even remember what the Colress card does. Ooh, a Zoroark! Colress hater. It's the stop beware again. 4 of them. Oh, another legendary. Put 2 damage counters on each of your opponent's Pokemon that has any damage counters on it. That's good, as long as you aren't playing it first turn. And then 100 damage and coin flip for energy, get rid of. Elmephant. I love that image. I love the scene of that. Ooh. That's a fun attack. Bring down the axe. An energy. There's a lot of fighting ones. Yay! Famsi. Oh god, it's the blinding one. We can't get away from cells. There's always cells. It looks kind of like a Frankenstein. Blood Moon Ursaluna? Do I know what that is? When you play from your hand onto your bench, you may attach up to 2 basic energy cards from your hand. I used to play stuff that had... there was some card they used to have as like the flagship thing, like years ago when I used to play this. I can't even remember which Pokemon it was, but it was the meta deck that everyone used. There was no like counter and there was no alternative. Everybody played this one deck, and there was one card... all I can remember is I think it was a legendary, and I think it was water. When you played it from your hand, you immediately attached 2 energy to it. There was just nothing else that stood up to that. It was just like a cheat. You could immediately do like 100 damage to something. It was just ridiculous. And that didn't even take into account playing an energy during your turn, so it could have 3 the moment it was played. There was no point doing anything else. I didn't really enjoy playing Pokemon Trading Card Game live. I wanted to just not do that, but there was no reason to not do that ever. Huh? Isn't that, I've forgotten her name. I have her in Pokemon Master ZX. What's her name? I've forgotten. She's annoying. Why is she wearing a hoodie and suddenly she's a different person? Yeah, I got both moths. I like, Penny. Yeah, that's her name. Why is she called Cassiopeia when she puts a hoodie on? Unless she has some sort of evil twin who is less annoying. I got both Volcaronas. What? Sol Wassman, why are you speaking to me as though I have memory loss? Yay! We got some cards. I don't get it. I don't get it. She has terrible hair. When you have no other cards, you can look through your deck for 2 cards. Okay. I don't care about her. I don't want her to be in the storyline. Okay, sorry. We've been negative enough, I believe. That's the end of the stream. Thank you for coming to watch me finally experience, I think we can call it a milestone of gaming history. I'm glad I have played it. I can definitely see how those developers have really picked up on certain themes and narrative devices that they really like and have done twice. And in praise of dear Esther, it was entertaining to play with people. There is still an open question, which is whether the kidney stones were a red herring and he couldn't bring himself to think about the fact that she was pregnant when she died. Car crash is stored in the kidney stones. That is our raid message. Thank you very much, Scenes. I had a great time playing through that with everyone. A far better time than I would have alone. Easily. I would have gotten lost in that cave for even longer, and I would have probably gotten bored and stopped. So yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for seeing that through with me. Goodbye message. If you want to know when I stream next and you aren't following me on Blue Sky, you should do that, and then you'll be able to see. Now, I've got to find somebody streaming so we can land on them with this amazing raid message. Oh, Tide is streaming Wander Stop. So that's where we're going. I don't know what Wander Stop is, but Tide is an amazing friend of mine who came along to my birthday thing a couple weeks ago. God, I've been old for like 10 days. So, yeah, whatever Wander Stop is. Does anyone know? Oh, he is currently taking a break for 3 minutes. I'm not gonna waste everybody's raid message by going in during a break. Everybody hang tight for like 2 minutes. What else can we say about that? What else was interesting about it? Oh yeah, in praise of dear Esther, just like Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, the graphics were incredible. I cannot believe the game is as old as it is. It still looked fantastic in this day and age. By now standards, it looked amazing. Cannot praise that enough. Unfortunately, I had to play Everybody's Gone to the Rapture while I had my eye condition was being weird. So it was fairly blurry while I was trying to play it. But this one, I got to see perfect clarity. Being in something that reminds me of the Source engine is also pretty nice. It's just comfy. It's just a cozy, like coziness to me is just the Source engine. I was playing Left 4 Dead earlier, and knowing that you can shrink your hitbox by crouching, even when you jump, is just like... It's just like a nice balm to your brain. It's like being given a soothing little head massage. Doing a jump and then like pulling your legs up after you. No other game like does that for some reason. Anyway, I hope everybody has a great time if you're going to stay and watch Wander Stop. I nearly said Wander Song, and I don't know if those games are related. Does anyone know? Putting on a 10-hour YouTube vid of Gmod physics noises to go to sleep with. I'm sure somebody in the world does that. It puts a smile on my face every time I hear the Gmod physics noise. I haven't had Gmod installed in like decades, but I definitely remember duping around in it and loading up random weird things and just seeing people going ham and shooting stuff really far away with the... What was it? It was like a crossbow that fired a red hot... What was it? You know that thing. It was like almost unnecessarily violent. You could one-shot anyone with that. Hot rod firing mechanism. Why did it need to be superheated? Like, what did that achieve? Oh, just saw Playing Tacoma later this week. Yeah, it's another one I've had for ages. A friend of mine bought it for Christmas one time for me. And again, it's just like sat there and I was like, I need to play these things. And now this is a really fun way to do that. It's weird how there's two versions of me on the screen right now. Let's just do something else. Oh, that's still me. Which of these doesn't have me on it? The Battle Pass. You can get an Eevee with a hat on. All right, I think Tide is back. Wow, the game looks very swish and clean and spongy, and I want to knead it like an ASMR video. Okay. Raid. Total. Wait, what is it? Total spiff. I think that's right, isn't it? No? Did I do that wrong? Why didn't it raid? Have I completely lost my mind? That is his URL. I've spelled it right. It's !raid, isn't it? Guys, why can't I raid? Is it slash? Am I thinking of the wrong thing? /raid? Oh my god, I'm so stupid. I'm sorry. I always get confused as to which one is the command for which thing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My brain's melted. Anyway, get the raid message. Sorry, please forgive me, please. Anyway, thank you very much. Hopefully I will see you on Friday for whatever Tacoma is. I'll find out. People keep telling me it's sad. I hope you have a great night. Bye!